Mexican cartels have the spyware that the Israeli government uses to spy on Palestinians, and now Mexico can use it on Americans. They can get into your phone. They can see everything you do, everything you search. They also can do what's called a room tap, meaning they use the phone's camera and microphone to spy on you wherever you are, putting your kid to bed, what have you. Now, the Epoch Times reported this in depth, but this is actually not brand new information. What's new is that we are at war with the cartels and how it can be used against us. So pay attention. It's called Pegasus, and it can get into your phone even if you don't click. It's called no-click malware because you don't have to click a link to get it. And it can detect when it's draining your battery and then pause itself so you don't know that it's there. This is terrifying. Now, to be clear, absolutely clear about Pegasus, it was developed by an Israeli firm called the NSO Group, not the Israeli government themselves. Israel has never admitted to use it, but it was found on Palestinian officials' phones since at least 2021. Now, Israel never confirmed or denied that, but NSO, the software group that owns it, says that whenever they want to make a sale of their software, they have to get it approved by the Israeli Ministry of Defense. For every time someone wants to use this Pegasus software, Israel's government has to sign off on it, which would mean that Israel has signed off, our greatest ally, has signed off on Mexico having this spyware, and now they might use it against us. That's fun, right? So let's rethink this biggest ally bit. Now, in Greek mythology, Pegasus is a winged horse with magical powers that can go between the mortal and immortal worlds. It's like a unicorn without the horn. The software Pegasus has similar magical abilities because it can jump digital boundaries. It was developed when governments realized that a wiretap would no longer work because of encryption. So they need to hack your phone, the phone itself, not the data transfer. Now, this was reported by the author Nicole Perlroth from the New York Times. She was the one who covered the Edward Snowden leaks when they broke. And she reported it in the New York Times in 2016. I want to refer to her reporting because I think she does a good job of saying exactly what this does in this book. So let's talk about it. And again, hold on to your butts. Now, she says that by hacking the endpoints of the communication, the phone itself, NSO can access data before it was encrypted on the device. Now, these two people, Julio and Levy, they pitched this as not remote access technology, but instead now government surveillance. And they called it Pegasus, like the mythical winged horse it was named for because it can do the impossible, capture vast amounts of previously inaccessible data, phone calls, text messages, email, contacts, calendar appointments, GPS location, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Skype without leaving a trace. And it can do what NSO calls a room tap, gather sounds and snapshots in and around the room using the phone's microphone and video camera. And it can deny targets access to certain websites and applications and grab screenshots off their phone. It can record your every search and browsing activity. And one of the biggest selling points is that it's battery conscious, which means that when you have spyware, you notice your phone is beginning to be drained. The battery starts to go down. But Pegasus can see when it's killing your battery life, shut itself down, and then wait for the target to connect to Wi-Fi so it can keep spying on you. Now, they say that NSO had already sold it, now look here, to two eager customers, Mexico and the UAE. And they are now also offering it to other governments in Europe and the Middle East. She says that also the Italians are scurrying to protect as many people from NSO as possible. And longtime clients in Mexico and the Gulf threaten to take their business to do business with the Israelis. Mexico and the UAE. So someone in Mexico has had this at least since 2016, and the Trump and the Biden White House knew it, right? So who in Mexico would need this?
Well, there was a journalist that was killed in 2017 who was an investigative journalist who was going after the cartels. And you had the shady Mexican leaders in Mexico who specifically made the deal with NSO Group, got the software, and were able to facilitate giving this so they could target journalists and go after cartel opposition.
Well, NSO had told her the reporter, that 3 Mexican government agencies had it. And accordingly, they are the country's Center for Investigation and National Security and Attorney General Office and its Department of Defense. Well, if you know anything about Mexican politics, it's that the cartels are involved in the government, right? They are infiltrated. The NSO says, well, they're so proud that the Mexican government used this to catch El Chapo Guzman, the famous drug lord. But when she investigated further, she found it also, as Clayton just said, was used on journalists and also, strangely, experts who had covered government corruption and were in favor of a soda tax because that was big money in Mexico. And again, can you protect yourself from it? Not really, because you don't have to click it to put it in. They can just do it. And in fact, it costs about $500,000 per install for both iPhones and Androids. Neither of us are safe, or you can get a package deal. 10 phones for $650,000. Now, again, all of this was published in the New York Times in 2016. So we should have known this, that this is where this would land us. And again, if Israel is our biggest ally, maybe we should have asked them, are you putting this on anyone who could use it against us? That might have been nice, considering all the money we send Israel, that maybe give us a heads up if you're going to sell some software that spies on us, given that NSO has said that they need permission from the Israeli Defense Ministry to sell this. You think? Right? Okay. No outrage? You want to join me in outrage? I'm looking for a, yeah.
Well, I mean, again, if you...
Okay, thanks.
So we know that they have to sign off on this, and they're using it to target journalists specifically and going after people who are in opposition to these drug cartels, right, and to these kingpins. And so they're using it to target journalists, and then they assassinate the journalists, like Javier Valdez and his group. So after Javier Valdez was assassinated in 2017 in Mexico, the group surrounding him, his helpers, his other journalists surrounding Javier Valdez, they were targeted, and they found and confirmed that Pegasus software, spyware, was used to target them.
Yes.
So we have the evidence here that it's being used to target journalists and people who are in opposition to these thugs.
Right. So how then can the cartel use it to fight the U.S. government that's trying to shut down their business? How can they do that? I mean, we don't know. I'm only extrapolating here.
Well, blackmail. If they're grabbing screenshots, they're planting things on their phone. And by the way, it can be used in reverse too. It can be used to actually put things on their phone, not just screenshots like they're grabbing stuff of what these people are doing, but to be able to put things on their phone as well. Right.
Now, you probably have heard the lore of rival drug cartels in Mexico. Well, now they're sort of teaming up, and they have military-grade weapons. These gangs are notorious for being violent against each other, but the U.S. government is now a common enemy, and they're being called super cartels in hopes of surviving the next 4 years. So what they're calculating is if we work together, we can get through ICE, we can get through the U.S. Border Patrol, we can continue our business. They also have what's called narco drones. They can scan for Border Patrol agents, and they can deliver the drugs, the drones themselves, and they're armed with explosives. And it's worth remembering the cartels are trying to deliver these drugs to our kids. It's mostly young white males. That's their biggest audience, their biggest moneymakers. What's funny about that?
I'm just laughing in the chat room because I think someone made a funny. JB says Israel probably didn't know that it would be used against journalists.
Yeah.
Well, and think about that. If they could put things on your phone, they could accuse you of a crime and then put the evidence of the crime on your phone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. That's terrifying. And again,
I'm just thinking about. We just covered the you got Pete Hegseth and JD Vance in a group chat. Like if you could get people could be grabbing information off of our political leaders, off their phones, giving that to the drug cartels.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And that's where a lot of people think that there's a lot of blackmail, that's why they, people have power over these individuals, right?
Right. And so with all this dangerous weaponry, you think, well, what do we got? Do we got some stuff? we can defend ourselves or push back against this. Well, not if it involves launching attacks inside Mexico. And again, as we've established that the cartel is infiltrated in the Mexican government, the Epoch Times points out that even if we were going to strike inside Mexico where the cartels are, they would be tipped off by the shadow government because they are infiltrated. Although I do want to ask, if you read this and you're like, well, we said we wouldn't attack inside Mexico's borders without giving them a heads up. And the Mexican government, if we give them a heads up, would tell the cartels, when have we given heads up to countries we're going to bomb before? When has that stopped us? Like,
I know. In the movie The American President. Remember that?
No.
They gave him a heads up so the building would be empty and only the janitor would be there when they bombed him. Like, they kind of gave him a little bit of a heads up. It's in fiction. That's the only time that this actually happens.
Yeah, in Syria or Yemen when we bombed there, I didn't see that in the signal chat we just covered. Do we give them a heads up? Like, why? I'm not saying that I want to bomb Mexico or bomb cartels or anything like this, but I very much would like to win the war on drugs. That looks like it's going to be violent, but at the same time, it's just kind of strange. Like, well, we don't do that. We don't bomb inside countries without giving them a heads up. And I'm like, but we do. I'm not saying I want to do it, but yeah, we've done that before. So it seems to be shaping up to be a. Go ahead.
If they were smart, the sound of the planes coming should be warning enough, right?
Well, they say they've got undetectable drones.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Do they have any kind of radar detection? I mean, I know we've got some stuff, we've got some cool stuff in our military. Is this the only way to win? I mean, military officials are saying we actually don't know how we're going to win this war. It's way more dangerous than we thought. So now we all know. We all know that. So let us know your thoughts.
Strata Comgro says Pegasus was designed as an exploit to remain embedded in Apple iOS and all Android updates and versions. That's how it remains undetectable. It attaches itself to mobile OS and apps in your phone.
Yeah it does. And in fact, she talks about that, how they launched it as they tried to sell it to Apple to do remote IT work. Like you call up and you'll be like, oh, I can't get on this or whatever.
Yeah.
And they wanted to sell it to Apple. I wish Apple had bought it because it's gone to a much darker place. So let us know what you think about that.